What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 5 tips to be a starting wide receiver and the best wide receiver on your team. Let's get started. Now, before we get into this video, fellas, we are going to be traveling out to 7 more states across the U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps this year. We're going to be coming out to Boston, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Ohio, Seattle, Washington, Austin, Texas, Newark, New Jersey, Denver, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys are local to one of those cities and would like to train with us for 2 whole days, check out that very first link in the description below. It's 8 hours of work for quarterbacks and wide receivers, position specific, and it's going to be in a small group environment. So again, very first link in that description below. Let's get back to this video. All right, guys, so if you want to be a starting wide receiver, you want to be the best wide receiver on your team, the first thing that you have to emphasize is your speed. So every single snap as a wide receiver, we are matched up against the fastest position on the field, which is a DB. DBs are extremely fast. Usually they're very, very disciplined players. So our speed is something that we need to give us that extra leg up to be able to stand out amongst the other wide receivers on the team. So what can you do to improve your speed? Because I'm not just going to tell you need to do something. I'm going to tell you the things that you should do to improve those aspects of your game. And that's how this video is going to work out. I'm going to give you different tips, different things that you should try to emphasize, but I'm also going to tell you what you can do to work on those. So for your speed, 3 specific things. Number 1, you have to make sure that you have good running form. So a lot of times recruits will ask me like, hey, should I be running track in the off season? I think that's a great thing to build your running mechanics, to build your running form. Hopefully your coach does track specific workouts, but the thing about track is that it's not one of the heavily most funded sports in the high school, like kind of sports world, I guess you could say, right? Usually you'll get a track coach who's maybe a volunteer, maybe he ran track at one point, but he's not necessarily a speed specific guy. And honestly, it just turns into a waste of time at that point where you're just running laps and it's conditioning, right? So you need to find either a speed coach or a track coach that's going to help you with your running form. Now, number 2, you need to train resistance. So running with sleds, running up hills, running, maybe not in sand. I was going to say in sand, but I don't think that's the greatest thing maybe for your hips and the way your running form would go. So maybe not sand, but hills, sleds, parachutes, anything of that nature is going to help you guys. And then training explosive movements in the gym. So box jumps, power cleans, all those things that are going to activate your fast twitch muscle fibers, because those fast twitch fibers is what will translate to on-field game speed. So again, fellas, those are the things. Your speed is one of the most important things to be that best wide receiver on your team. All right, guys, the next thing that you need to be the best wide receiver on your team is you need great hands. You need to make sure that you catch every single pass that is thrown to you, because that is what's going to make you stand out. How many high school wide receivers do you see drop the ball almost, 50% of the time, man? It's crazy. Guys do not have consistent hands, but if you can have consistent hands, that makes you an asset to the team, and you will be on the field every single snap. Because think about this, like you could have, because we talk a lot about route running on this channel, right? We talk a lot about how to run certain routes, the technique behind certain routes. However, if you run horrible routes, let's say you are locked up every single snap, but every time the ball is thrown to you, you catch the ball. You never drop it. Even if the DB gets a hand on it, you're pulling it from him. You get 100% catch rate. You will play more than the guy who runs great routes and drops the ball, maybe 30% of the time, right? He throw him 10, he catches 7. You will be on the field more than that because, again, even if you're not open, but you're going to catch the ball guaranteed every single time, you will stay on the field. That's just a fact of the matter how it is. I don't think anybody can argue with me on that, because who wouldn't take that? If I got a receiver, let's say I'm playing quarterback, and I got a guy who's open, but he might drop it, might not, and then I got a guy who's covered, but I know 100% fact he's going to catch it, I'm going to that guy every single time. So your hands, why not be that receiver who's got speed, got route running, and has hands, and be that complete wide receiver? That's how you become that best wide receiver on your team. So when it comes to hands, again, there's 2 main things that you should try to work on. Number 1, grip strength. So fingertip push-ups, pull-ups, anything that's going to strengthen your hand, because that will help you make tough catches. Like if it's a ball that's thrown low, you catching that ball, having a strong grip is going to make you do that. Your jump ball, ripping it away from a defender, you have to have grip strength to do that. Now, the second thing that you should try to emphasize, hand-eye coordination. So anytime that you're working, tennis balls, partner throwing you tennis balls, throwing tennis balls off a wall, maybe you draw on the points of the ball numbers. I've done that with guys before. That ball hits your hands, you got to call out a number. Anything that forces you to have to take that photo of the ball and have that locked-in hand-eye coordination anytime the ball is thrown to you. So your hands is the second way that you guys can be the best wide receiver on your team. All right, guys, so the next thing I want to talk to you about to be the best wide receiver on your team, to be a starting wide receiver, is running great routes. We kind of mentioned that in the last video, and running great routes really boils down to 3 specific things. So number 1, you have to be a salesman with your routes. So what does that exactly mean? That means that you have to sell vertical on everything that you do. So I say that a lot, like selling vertical, selling fade. What does that exactly mean? We are trying to make that DB think that you were, like, let's say he's sitting in coverage right here. We were trying to make him think that you were running past him, and we were trying to get him to either open up or backpedal the hell out of there, right? So how I can do that is by focusing on doing 3 specific things within this first thing. Number 1, you need to make sure that you're running hard. If you're going up on routes and you're running it half-assed, you're just running out, jogging, coming out of the break lazily, that doesn't sell fade and that doesn't make you a great route runner. Running great routes, especially nowadays with all these offenses that are spread, air raid, that put you in a lot of one-on-one situations, that turns heads. Every single wide receiver coach and offensive coordinator wants wide receivers who can separate. And it comes down to selling, number 1. So you got to make sure we're running hard. You got to make sure that you have good body language. You don't want to run up to a break, start to raise up, or maybe start to turn before your foot gets down, because that gives the route away. You're not selling. And then last but not least, you want long strides. So a lot of guys can't do this. A lot of guys come out, and then right before the break, they chop to prepare for the break. You don't want to do that. All 3 of those things are indicators, and we want to eliminate indicators. That's phase 1. Second thing, change direction on a dime. So when you guys drop into a break like a comeback or a curl, you guys want to be violent with your hips. You guys want to make sure that we are explosive. Now, you're running a route like a post or a corner. When you cut off with 1 foot, we don't want to just have this slow cut. We want to be explosive and put that foot in the grass to change direction. And then phase 3 of being a great route runner is acceleration. Out of the break, we want to separate. You sell the fade, you create this explosive cut, you don't give it away. That gets you open, but I want to stay open. So every time you're running a route, let's say it's a post or even a comeback, I want you to pretend you got a plate of glass behind you and your elbows, you're trying to break glass. Because when you break glass with those elbows, that accelerates you out and that widens the distance from the DB. So those 3 things will make you a great route runner and can help you stand out to be that best wide receiver on your team. All right, guys, so the next thing I want to talk about is honestly being able to read a defense. That is going to make you one of the biggest assets to the team possible, because again, fellas, I coached high school wide receivers for a bit, had a lot of experience coaching receivers, and every single time we get a receiver, we don't really even expect them to know how to read a defense. We expect them to kind of understand the route tree, expect how to get open, expect certain things out of them, but we never expect them to know how to read a defense. So if you can do that, that is a complete load off for your coach, and he is going to love you. And that is how you're going to get more opportunities to make plays on the field. So knowing how to read a defense. So what does that exactly mean? And honestly, it comes down to being able to read a DB's leverage. So you could keep it simple as a wide receiver. Let's say you're an outside wide receiver. Let's say, for example, you come up to the line. You know a ton about the coverage of that DB, all based on where he's lined up. Not even how close or how far, based on the leverage. So if he's inside shade, head up, or outside shade. So I'm going to walk you through it, and this is a pre-snap process that you need to have as a wide receiver. So you come up to the ball, let's say the DB is shaded to the inside of you. That tells you that he's trying to take away the slant, force you to the outside. So that tells me with my routes, if he's in press, I need to attack him and take the outside release. I'm not going to be able to get the inside release, because that is what he is trying to prevent me from running. 2, if he is head up, that honestly means I have a 2-way go. If he is head up with me, that means that I could set him up outside, I could set him up inside and go the opposite way. Head up is easy. And then if he's outside leverage, that tells me that he's trying to prevent the outside route, force me to the inside, and that probably means he has safety help. So that means that there's another guy that I could end up getting double teamed. I don't want to run my route all the way across the field into that safety. Obviously, there's some more details, more intricacies of knowing coverages and understanding defenses. And if you guys want some help with that, just please post that in the comment section below. If you'd like some help with how wide receivers can read defenses, I can absolutely help you with that and send you some material we have. But again, knowing how to read defenses will make you a huge asset to the team. All right, guys, so the next thing I want to talk about is building chemistry with your quarterback. Now, I know a lot of you out there are very talented wide receivers, especially guys watching this video are probably very talented wide receivers, but you don't get enough opportunities from your quarterback to showcase your abilities. Now, I'm going to tell you a story personally from when I played quarterback, right? So this is when I played quarterback in high school. You know, I had a lot of wide receivers. Some guys I grew up with some of the time I was 5 years old, right? Some of my best friends, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I trust them in the offense that I'm in just because they're my friends, right? I trusted the guys who would come out on Saturdays after school, after lifting, it would come out and throw with me so I could build chemistry. They weren't even like my closest friends. They were just guys who I knew could get the job done, and that is how a quarterback is going to think about you. So I'm not saying you got to be best buds with your quarterback. Maybe your quarterback's a complete dick. Like, you don't need to be friends with him. You just need to work with him so you guys have that chemistry and you guys can build a on-field relationship. That's the most important part. Off the field, if you guys are best friends, great. That's awesome. That's probably going to help your case. But you need to put in the extra work with your quarterback, because for me, I had guys that I literally grew up with from the time I was 5, 6 years old, played baseball with, t-ball, all that stuff, and I would not throw them the ball because I didn't trust them. I would throw the ball to guys that I knew maybe for a year, maybe 2 years, but they were the guys who put in the hours with me, and I knew they were going to get the job done, which made me look good and obviously makes them look good. And they were deemed the best wide receivers on the team because they got the opportunities to. So fellas, after lifting, after spring ball, after 7-on-7 practice, text your quarterback on the weekend. Let's go get some work in. You need to build chemistry with that guy so he trusts you, so he can give you opportunities to make yourself the best wide receiver on the team. Because again, you can't do anything without the quarterback. Fact of the matter how it is. You should never demean the quarterback. You should never get pissed off at the quarterback. You just need to understand we need chemistry so you can get those opportunities, because opportunities as a wide receiver is everything. Alright guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out and train with us this off season, we are coming out to 7 more states, across the US for 2-day long QB and wide receiver camp. So again, fellas, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to see you out there. I'll see you guys next time.